if he ended the upcoming season as
In
the tight end,
redraft.
as the tight end
I
one.
mean,
So
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe
you
it.
could not believe that. Hello and welcome to another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks. I'm Jason, he's Vaz, and today we're going to start a new series of something that we did a while ago, but some time has passed, rankings have changed, and we're going to do an updated version of a battle, a debate, a comparison of two players that we see differently. Vaz has somebody ranked a little bit higher than others. Well, I have certain people ranked higher than others. So we're going to put these guys against each other, and we're going to let you decide on who you like better, or maybe how convincing we are in our arguments. So we're going to have a few of these in a series, starting today with an interesting tight end battle. Vaz, before I introduce the fight here, anything you want to add to what we're up to?
No, not much at all. I think you covered it. Let's just get right into it.
Then without any further ado, ding ding for round one as we compare TJ Hockenson to Kyle Pitts. Both, I think, are probably in the same tier, but at the same time, it's a big tier. You have Hockenson rated as your second Dynasty tight end. I have Pitts rated as my second Dynasty tight end. And meanwhile, for the other, we have significantly lower within the same tier. So why do you have Hockenson so much higher, not only than Pitts, but everyone else?
Yeah, well, as you said, they are in the same tier, but I really like Hockenson. Listen, when comparing him to Pitts, like it's pretty easy for me to decide to go Hockenson just based on past production, on what I've seen off tape, how he's looked. So last season he played 14 games before the injury. He was a tight end one in 13 of those 14 games. So he's as consistent as they come. He had upwards of like 95 95 receptions on, I believe, 123 targets last season in only 14 games. And, 1,000 yards as well. So like in Kevin O'Connell's offense, they throw underneath the tight end an awful lot, and he really blossomed last year. He was, in my opinion, the best tight end in football last year before the injury. And even like I'd have him probably, this is going to be very unpopular, but I'd probably have him even ahead of Sam Laporta if he hadn't have gotten injured. So I was really, really high on TJ Hockenson when he was blowing up last season. So as long as he shows that he's recovered from this injury, he's going to be my tight end too. And then like conversely, talking about Pitts, this is a guy who hasn't done anything in 3 years. I know he's got the argument of the poor quarterback play and, bad offensive scheme, but like the fact remains that like last season, in 18 games, he was a tight end one 5 times. It's just a player you can't trust. The year before, a tight end won in 2 out of 10 games. And even in his rookie season, when he had no target competition at all, he was a tight end one in only 7 of 18 games. So he hasn't shown anything at all. And we're not even certain he's an elite player. We're just still at this point going into year 4. We're still ranking him high because of his elite draft capital, right? And then his traits. But he hasn't shown anything on tape, unlike Hockenson, who's been an elite player at the position.
All right. I want to point out for the public on Keep Trade Cut, both of these guys are actually ranked a lot lower than we rank them. Okay. So Laporta, I think in Dynasty is obviously the tight end one. He's probably in a tier of his own for most people. Trey McBride is listed at second, and then Kincaid, and then Bowers, and then Pitts at like tight end 5. The public has Hockenson down at 7. So both of us are high on our guys compared to the general public on their players. I think for Hockenson, it's probably because of the injury. For Pitts, as you mentioned, it's because he hasn't been proven. Now, in reference to these two, why am I higher on Pitts than Hockenson? I think Pitts really hasn't had a fair shake yet. If you look at the quarterbacks that he's played with, as you did allude to, he really hasn't had the opportunity to show what he can do. And let's take a look at TJ Hockenson as an example. For his first 3 seasons, he finished tight end 32, 5, and 16. Had one good season, okay? You know what happened after.
He was injured though, right? So make
Yes,
sure you
fair
mention
enough. Yeah,
that.
well, he missed a few games, but then he went on to be tight end 2 and 4. He probably could have been tight end 2 both of those seasons. But one thing that also changed in between those seasons, or tight end 1, sure, was the fact that he was playing with Kirk Cousins compared to the other quarterbacks that he was playing with in Detroit. And guess who Kyle Pitts is going to be playing with? So Kirk Cousins is going to be switching from Hockenson over to Pitts. Meanwhile, Hockenson, Pitts had Desmond Ridder and company, and now Hawkinson's going to be with Sam Darnold and maybe JJ McCarthy, who we don't know how he's going to be. He's already got some good receivers there, including the best receiver there for target shares as well. I understand that Hockenson has been good. He's also coming back from the injury. The public is low on him, and I think there is legitimate reasons. He is young, okay? I do give him the youth on his side. He's nowhere near aging out at any point in the next decade, even perhaps. But the injury is a scare, and the fact that who knows what he's going to get in terms of quarterback play, and is there really going to be enough targets when he's got two elite wide receivers that he's battling for in terms of targets? Pitt's upside has never had a good quarterback to throw to him. Finally, he's got a legitimate case, and I think this season is the breakout. If Pitts does not break out this year, I think it's safe to say that we can kind of fade him down as the next tier, like maybe even out of the top 10. If he does not finish in the top 5 in tight ends this year, I think I would probably drop him out of the top 10 in tight ends. And I think he knows as well that he has no excuses after this season. I expect a good season out of him, and I don't know why anybody wouldn't.
Okay, so there's a lot for me to like kind of get back at here, but let's start with your first point was that like poor quarterback play for Pitts and then good quarterback play for Hockenson. Last season, after Cousins went down, Hockenson didn't miss a beat with Joshua Dobbs, and I think it's fair to say that Joshua Dobbs is potentially worse than Desmond Ridder, right? I mean, like in the same conversation, like he's definitely not an elite quarterback, but Hockenson didn't miss a beat. I think like the game after Cousins went down, he put up 30 fantasy points. Like the guy's elite, and Kevin O'Connell likes to use the tight end in that scheme. And you know what? Yeah, sure, JJ McCarthy's unproven, but he doesn't have a huge arm. He doesn't push the ball downfield very often from his based off his college tape. And historically, young rookie quarterbacks lean on like elite talented tight ends. And I think he will be very valuable to JJ McCarthy. I don't think it's going to be an issue, the quarterback play in Minnesota. And then you mentioned that. Secondly, you mentioned that Hockenson has a lot of target competition with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. I don't see much of a difference in Pitt's situation. In my opinion, he's the third best. At best, he's the third best playmaker in that offense behind Bijan and Drake London. So I don't think their situations are much different in that sense. And I'm just going to go with the player who I think is a much better player. Like, I mean, even if I asked you, Jason, who's a better NFL football player, TJ Hockenson or Kyle Pitts? What's your answer?
Well, at this point of the stage, but I mean, once again, that could change at the end of this season because we just haven't
And it could
seen.
not.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely, but that's
Yeah.
why we're debating in the first place, right? If we've seen Pitts with an elite quarterback and he wasn't able to produce in that situation, then this wouldn't be an argument. But because of the unknown, that's what we're trying to unpack here. Do we want to see what's behind door number 1, or do we want to go with the guy that's now got behind door number 1 as his quarterback, right? Like we've got the unknown quarterback versus the known quarterback, and we're kind of flip-flopping those guys, and then we have the known talent with the unknown talent because the unknown talent really hasn't had a proper opportunity. If we knew those answers, this would be a non-discussion for anybody. But that's why people do have Pitts rated as high as they do, even though he hasn't shown that yet. We're predicting, right? It's like we're going after a blue chip stock on the stock market. We're expecting things to happen, even if it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, no, you're right in the sense that like there's potential for Pitts to be worth more than Hockenson next season for sure. Absolutely, he's younger. He's got the elite draft capital. He's got incredible athleticism. There's potential for that. But listen, if you draft either of these guys in a startup, you're probably looking at spending a fourth round pick on them. And I think at that stage in a startup, you need to hit. You need to grab those foundational pieces that are not going to miss. And if I'm thinking of who could miss Hockenson versus Pitts, Hawkinson's not going to miss. We know what Hawkinson is at this point. And there's potential for Pitts to miss. Of course, there's potential for Pitts to boom, but I think it's a much riskier pick, in my opinion. And early in a draft, I don't want to take huge risks. I don't want to miss. I want to get that foundational piece. And I know Hawkinson can be very productive for me if I have a competitive team, and he's also young enough that I can build around him for a retooling team.
Okay, wait. So here's my question for you, which you're somewhat getting into, but not in the same way that I wanted to. So my question becomes, how surprised would you be if Pitts ended the season as tight end 1? How shocking would that be? Would you be like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming? Or would you be like, yeah, I guess he's going to be tight end 1 from now on? How shocked would you be?
I'd be incredibly shocked.
You'd be incredibly shocked if Pitts was number 1 at the end of the season?
You mean Dynasty tight end 1 or like the number one overall tight end?
If he ended the upcoming season as the tight end 1.
I couldn't believe it.
You could not believe that. If he ended the season
what have you seen? What have you seen in his first 3 seasons? What have you seen in his first 3 seasons to make you believe that he's capable of being the tight end 1?
What
have you seen?
Okay, but first off, just the talent, and then he hasn't
what talent? What have you seen? He's in 50 games in the NFL. What have you seen?
Oh my God. Okay, I've seen bad quarterback play. I've seen that he's been double covered a lot, but he's gonna have much better opportunities. He's gonna have much looser coverage in terms of other weapons around him. He's gonna have a more accurate quarterback. I can't believe that you don't think that that's a possibility. That you would be shocked if he ended the season with the most total points for tight ends. I can't believe that you can't see that as a possibility.
Do you think he's the first option in that offense? Do you think he's a better player than Bijan or Drake London?
No, okay. Well, Bijan is a running back. That's like including another running back into the.
I think he's a better receiver. I think he's a better receiver than Kyle Pitts.
Okay, because he can jump up to like 7 feet high in the air.
No, because I think from what I've seen, he's a better receiver in my opinion.
You think Bijan Robinson is a better receiver?
Yes, I do.
Because if I'm a quarterback and I'm throwing to a target who's 6'6" with freakish athletic ability, that's who I'm throwing to in the end zone. If I'm Kirk Cousins and I've got a guy who's 6'6" that has a 40-inch vertical, then that's my target in the red zone. And you can, I don't care if Bijan's faster or if he can, on like a bubble or a sweep, like, take a pass from there. But if I'm in the end zone and I've got a big target like Pitts for touchdowns, that's my guy. And I can't believe that.
Why don't failed NBA basketball players try out for tight end? They're tall and athletic.
Sure. I mean, Jimmy Graham was great.
No, I mean,
Antonio Gates was great. It happens.
I'm just saying, listen, the height and athleticism isn't translating for Kyle Pitts. I haven't seen it yet in 3 seasons.
That's the point. He hasn't had the quarterback and he hasn't had the offensive coordinator that has really been able to accentuate his abilities and talents yet.
Is he a tight end in your opinion? I don't view him as a tight end. I view him as a tall receiver.
Yeah, fair enough.
That plays in the middle of the field, and it's probably out of his comfort zone in the middle of the field. I think he's more suited to be like out wide rather than running through the middle of the field.
Yes, I agree with you there. I fully agree with you there. I see him more as like a Darren Waller type.
Yeah.
He's not like certainly not like a George Kittle as an example, but those guys can be successful. I mean, it's like Tony Gonzalez was sort of like that as well. So you can be athletic and be an outside guy for a tight end and make plays like that. It comes down to the coaching. It comes down to an accurate quarterback, and it comes down to him breaking out this year to become the number 1 tight end. I think it's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I certainly would not be surprised if Kyle Pitts ended the season as tight end number 1.
Now, I can't do it for you. The inches we need are everywhere around us. What are you gonna do?
Like! Subscribe! Subscribe!
Okay, let me say, listen, they're both in the same tier for me.
Yeah.
Okay, they're in the same tier for me because Kyle Pitts holds a lot of value as a young tight end with upside. Okay, but as I said, in a startup with my foundational pieces, I want security, and it's clear to me that Hockenson is an elite player. As I said, he was my tight end 1 before he got injured, even over Sam Laporta. So, like, I'm not balking at this. For me, the reason he's down in the community's eyes at 6 or 7 is solely because of the injury. Once he recuperates from that, once he's healthy, he will rise. It's because he'll put up strong production in that offense. So yeah, I'm not worried. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, with Pitts, if Pitts does not finish in the top 5 of tight ends this season, I probably will drop him outside of my top 10 of tight ends. Because if he can't do it with Kirk Cousins, then he has answered the question. Then maybe he isn't a legitimate tight end threat. But at the same time, I would be shocked if he doesn't finish in the top 5. And I would not be surprised if he were to finish as tight end number 1. Any final words?
I just think I'm a lot less risk adverse than you are.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like I said, I'm willing to gamble that he is going to do what he's going to do because that's, what we've been expecting. And now he finally gets the opportunity to shine. But at the same time, is it a little bit more of a gamble than Hockenson? Yeah, I agree with that. And that's, I guess, the one thing that we can't agree on. This was Hockenson versus Kyle Pitts. We're going to compare some other players coming up as well. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, join our Facebook group as well, which is listed in the descriptions below. And we'll see you next time for another edition of Fantasy Football Freaks.